Hi, I'm Tom Donahue, your host. Welcome to the live Aldermanic Forum for Rutland City Board of Aldermen. We appreciate you tuning in to PEG TV Channel 21 and those watching on pegtv.com and live on Facebook. Tonight you'll have a chance to hear from the candidates, 9 candidates running for 6 seats for the Rutland City Board of Aldermen and 2 candidates running for a 1-year seat. You'll get to hear their views on many issues and a little bit about them, so that you'll be able to make a more educated decision on March 5th. I also want to mention that the polls are now open, if you will, in that you can do the early voting at City Hall in Rutland. And so if you're worried about the weather on the date of the election or some other thing that might keep you away from the polls, the most important thing is that you vote. So please feel free to come by City Hall and cast your ballot for a number of city issues, a number of city ballot issues, as well as a number of these great candidates that you're going to hear from tonight. I want to congratulate all the candidates for running for office. It's always a difficult thing to put your name on the ballot and be willing to put yourself out to the public to say that you're interested in being a Rutland City Alderman. So win or lose, these folks all need to be congratulated for being willing to put their name on the ballot, to go out in front of the public and talk about the issues and have them talk to you about considering them for elected seat to the Board of Aldermen. One last thing I want to mention before we get started, a quick shout out on behalf of PEG TV to an individual in this community, Jim Mumford. Jim, you've heard about quite a bit probably in the last few days in the front page of the Rutland Herald and other through social media and so forth. A Department of Public Works employee who was on his way to work on Friday night late, going to actually put some salt on some of our icy city roads when he came upon an accident on River Street where a van had actually run into a tree and was basically beginning to catch on fire. The van was eventually engulfed in flames. Just before that, Jim noticed an individual inside the vehicle. And however he doesn't call himself a superhero, at that moment, Jim had on a cape. And he went in that vehicle and pulled that person to safety. Another couple of Good Samaritans helped by calling 911. Jim called Danny Maneri of the DPW, who was able to get our local city fire and our emergency rescue there to assist and bring that person to Rutland Regional. So Jim's a real lifesaver. We're proud of him for what he did. It was a heroic act, without doubt. And it's one of those things that, you know, you can just be real proud of a city employee who not only rescued this individual at his own potential peril, I suppose, but then went on to finish the work, went back on his shift and finished salting our city roads that night. Just absolutely incredible. On behalf of PEG TV, Jim, we want to give you a big shout out. Bravo. Okay, now let's get into the Rutland City Board of Aldermen live Aldermanic Forum. We're going to give everyone a chance to tell you a little bit about themselves. So we're going to start to my far right with current Rutland City Alderman Tom Depoy, and we'll each have 1 minute to do an opening statement. Tom?
Hey, thanks, Tom. You know, you bring up a really good point. We had Jim in front of the Board of Aldermen last night, and we really wanted to extend our thanks to him and our congratulations on doing such a wonderful job, you know, outside the bounds of what he does in the public service and public works. So, but what he brought up to us at the board last night was the 911 system that's really broken when it comes to places where the people that are the responders don't know where it is that the caller is talking about. And the call went through and it said there's an accident over the River Street Bridge. Well, when somebody answers that phone down in Rockingham or in Williston, they don't know where over the River Street Bridge means. We all do here in Rutland, but the problem is that when you're trying to get somebody there quickly, they want an address. And, you know, Jim didn't have an address. So he knew the phone number to the police department. He finally called them, as you mentioned, Mr. Maneri too, and they got the help there quickly that they needed. So right now I'm the chair of the Public Safety Committee. We're going to be holding hearings very soon on 911, try to get some answers out of the state as to what we can do to better help the people that are answering the phone for these emergencies. So, you know, you brought that up, and I thought that that was something that really this board is going to start working on very soon, and, you know, I thought it was something that the public should know about.
Thank you, Tom.
So, thank you.
Chris Ettori.
Thank you, Tom. And thank you to PEG TV. We have a wonderful operation here in the city, and we're very lucky to have them for events like this, but also so that the citizens can see what we do at the board level. Right. I have completed my second term on the board, and I'm asking for your vote for my third term. I live here in the city with my wife and my 2 kids in 3rd and 5th grade in the city schools. I've really enjoyed being a part of the Board of Aldermen. I enjoy being part of the decision making. I think I bring a practical approach, but an optimistic approach. One that says that if we work together, we can really make a difference in this community. Rutland City is full of really dedicated citizens that are willing to do the hard work to make things happen. And I enjoy being a part of the Board of Aldermen to help set those policies and work for the citizens to make a great city. So I'll ask for your vote on next Tuesday, March 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Melinda Humphrey.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, PEG TV. I'm Melinda Humphrey. I'm wrapping up my 6th year serving our community on the Board of Aldermen, and I'd just like to take a chance to mention some things that might not come up during the forum. While serving on the Board of Aldermen, I've remained an active community member as part of a group that founded Rutland Young Professionals. I'm in my 9th season as the girls' youth hockey coach. I'm also a charter member of the Rutland area NAACP. I'm a licensed foster parent, and most recently I'm working with the Rutland Regional Marketing Initiative as a red carpet concierge, helping new folks that might be interested in moving to the Rutland area. I'm 37 years old. I've owned my home in Rutland City for 8 years and called Rutland home for about 12 years. I'm an analyst at Green Mountain Power, and I work downtown every day. Rutland, I've thrived both personally and professionally, and I do my best every day to put that positive energy back in the community that's given me so much. So as with any community our size, there's always room for improvement, and I welcome your feedback every step of the way. Thanks.
Thanks, Melinda. When do you sleep?
Late.
Rebecca Mattis.
Thank you. My name is Rebecca Mattis, and I'm seeking a second term on the board because I believe in Rutland, and I believe in the democratic process. When I first ran for office 2 years ago, I had a pretty good idea that I would be good at the work, but what surprised me is how much I really love it. I didn't begin with any particular agenda. I just wanted to learn how to be a good alderman and figure out how the democratic process actually works at City Hall. There's a lot to learn, but I'm in it for the long haul. I serve on 5 committees, and I'm also the board representative to 5 other city committees, most of which involve participation and a regular commitment. In the past 2 years, I hope that I've shown my fellow aldermen and the public that I'm open-minded, level-headed, and respectful of my fellow aldermen and everyone who comes to City Hall. I seek to earn respect by being diligent and focused on the matter at hand, and I care a lot about law, policy, and due process. So government is complex, and as long as I have the privilege, I will always work to intelligently and faithfully serve the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Matthew Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue, and thank you to PEG TV for hosting the Aldermanic Forum this year. For those of you here who don't know me, my name is Matt Merritt, and I am running for the 2-year seat on the Board of Aldermen. I'm a lifelong Rutland resident of 28 years, and I currently live on Deer Street in Rutland with my wife, Shannon. I am currently a sales representative for Mitchell Teas and Signs, Inc. in Pittsford. During my time there, I have developed relationships with many Rutland businesses and businesses all over the state of Vermont. During my time there, I have also learned how a small business works and what it takes to help it operate efficiently. That is how our city government should operate. I have worked on political campaigns here in Rutland and have worked to help elect the current mayor, David Allaire. I do believe that our city has made great strides in addressing some very pressing issues. However, there is much work to still be done. Our city's infrastructure is in immediate need of attention. We still have a looming drug problem and too many vacant buildings. While public safety will always be an issue, I do believe that we have some of the best police and fire departments around. Our city government should always give them support. If elected to the board, I would like to be a member of the Public Safety Committee. Thank you, and I look forward to sharing my opinions on the issues presented here tonight.
Thank you, Matt. Lisa Ryan.
Thanks, Tom, and thank you, PEG TV, for holding this forum tonight. My name's Lisa Ryan. I'm up for re-election for my second term. I've grown up in Rutland my entire life, and I returned in 2011 after college. And when I came back to Rutland, I had noticed how much it had changed since I left in 2007. There were a lot of things that were happening that I didn't like, and I made the decision to get involved in my community. I am an active member of Project Vision, and I work at Brock Community Action, where I'm the program manager of the Rutland County Community Justice Center. In my spare time, I'm volunteering, and I'm also a member of the Rutland area branch of the NAACP. Most recently, my husband and I purchased a home on Nichols Street, and I continue to invest my time into the city and into the Board of Aldermen, and I hope for your vote on March 5th. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. I don't know when any of you sleep, but Robert Schlachter.
Hi. Thank you for hosting tonight, and to PEG TV for allowing us to be here and get the information out to the folks. I'm running for the Board of Aldermen because I want to continue to serve our great city. I've been a resident since 2004. I worked for the city from 2001 to 2013, and I've lived in the Rutland area since 1979, so I think I have an idea of what's going on in the area. I continue to be active in the regional fire and emergency services on a volunteer basis, including president of Rutland County Fire Mutual Aid, and I'm married, have one adult daughter. I'm a graduate of the National Fire Academy Executive Fire Officer Program and hold a bachelor's degree in fire administration. And I also do some insurance loss control work, and I'm a member of the Rutland Kiwanis Club. And I just believe Rutland's best days are ahead of us, and would like to do anything I can to help the city continue to move forward in that direction.
Thank you, Bob. So running for a one-year seat, along with Dan White, is Matthew Reveal. Matt.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, PEG TV, for hosting this lovely event this evening. And thank you for the citizens for taking the time to watch this tonight. We do appreciate you guys paying attention to the local politics. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt Reveal. I'm running for the one-year seat of the Board of Aldermen. Me and my lovely wife, Stacia, live on the north end of Lincoln Avenue. We have two boys. I grew up in this city. I was raised here. I wasn't born here. I was born in Bennington. Don't hold me against anything against that, but I live here now. I chose to stay here. I've worked in the beer industry for 25 years. I recently got out of that a year ago, and now the proud owner of Muck and Schnabel's, a downtown business. So, I chose to develop a business here, stay local. A lot of things that I want to see get done is financially, we really need to pay attention to where the city is heading. I think we're at a point where if we don't, we're going to price ourselves out of being able to afford to live in this great city that we all work, live, and play in. I thoroughly enjoy being here, and my family does as well, and I know that every person on this panel thoroughly enjoys being in the city of Rutland and making it the best it can be. So I ask for your vote on March 5th.
Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
Excuse me. Everybody knows me as Dan White. Everybody knows I've been running for a number of years. For a number of years I've been service-oriented within Rutland County. Former Brock board member. I worked on Rutland County Solid Waste District as a board member. I've worked with fellows like Dave Wallstrom and others to develop a new program through the Rutland Recreation Department. Unfortunately, I had to step aside due to a serious illness I underwent, and I'm still recovering from. I've been a service-oriented for 35, 40 years here in Rutland County. I'm not here for a special agenda. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm here to serve, try to serve as a board member to help develop Rutland City. I've seen a lot of changes. I don't see a police department that sends home someone because of the way they dress while they're out campaigning. I don't see the police department bullying people. I see a new and stronger police department here in the city of Rutland. I also see them more oriented towards the people here in Rutland. they're doing an excellent job as far as I'm concerned. I see a lot of issues, which I won't get into, but I'd just like to put my name out there, and I'm trying to overcome negativity the Herald always puts in the paper about me, running. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, so we'll get into our first question of the evening, and we're going to start with Chris Ettori as our next up, and go my right to my left and go around the room that way. This may be the only softball question of the night, so we'll warm them up with this one. So, Chris, we have recently, as a candidate, I should say, and this will apply to incumbents as well, as a candidate motivated to run for the Rutland City Board of Aldermen, there must be at least one thing that you're particularly passionate about addressing. What is it?
Thanks, Tom. I always worry when you say it's a softball question, because if I screw it up, we're in trouble. There are actually a couple things that I'm really passionate about, but in particular, and I think the place there where the Board of Aldermen can have the most impact is on our economic development. Specifically, I think we really need to be developing the rental market. It's something that I've been pushing. I've attended the RRA meeting since 2012. I was the board's rep from 2015 to 2018. To the RRA. And during that time, I've continually stressed the importance of developing quality rentals, but also helping our landlords protect their investment. I think it's something that we need to really focus on coming up in the next year. Our regional marketing initiative that we put a lot of money into and a lot of faith in helping us recruit people has identified the rental market as one of the major issues with recruiting people here. So I would continue to push that idea at the RA meetings and at the board level, and hopefully we can make some great strides there.
Thank you, Chris. Melinda.
Thank you. So the question was the one thing that makes me passionate about running for the Board of Aldermen.
You got it.
I have to say one thing that I think is encompassing of many things that others will probably talk about is quality of life. Economic development falls under that. Recreational opportunities fall under that. Our marketing campaign to encourage young people to stay here and to encourage young families to move here. That's all really important, and I think keeping a positive outlook on Rutland and our opportunities here, that's really what motivates me to run. I've had success here both personally and professionally. I know I mentioned that already, but just being able to put that positive energy back in the community and help others make this their home and feel community here.
Thank you, Melinda. Rebecca.
Boy, that's a hard question. That is not a softball question. What am I most passionate about? Well, number one, I love Rutland. I've lived in a lot of beautiful places. This is the best place because of the people here. And I feel very lucky to be able to live here. My passion at the Board of Aldermen is actually not any particular issue, but the democratic process itself and learning how to work with people who have different opinions has been, it's changed my life, actually. Before I went on the board, I felt alienated from half of the people in the nation. When I got to the board, I saw team members and people I could learn from, and it's just been an incredible 2 years, and that's why I want another 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Matthew Merritt.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. As stated in my introduction, I am a lifelong resident here, and I have spoken to a lot of voters over the last couple of months, ones that I've known my whole life and ones that I met for the first time. And I can say that one issue that they're all passionate about is infrastructure, and I believe that before we can develop our economy, we need to address that issue. We have sidewalks in the city that are crumbling. We have bridges and roads that need to be fixed. I do believe that the bonds that are coming up here on the ballot on March 5th are crucial. I don't necessarily like the fact that it is going to propose a tax increase. I don't think anybody wants that, but I think when you're dealing with something that large and that important, it's always good to put that in the hands of the voters as opposed to just the Board of Aldermen. So I commend the current board and the mayor for doing it that way. So yeah, I think infrastructure is an absolute must. I think without it, it's going to be very, very difficult for any new businesses to come here and to stay here. I think that's what we all hope for, and that's one of the issues I'll be pushing for if I'm elected.
Thank you, Matt. Lisa Ryan.
Thanks, Tom. I have to say that I'm most passionate about the people here in Rutland City and the real sense of community that the collaboration between different folks really brings to the level of a great community. I'm passionate about keeping our community safe. We have great law enforcement, police department, fire department. We're very lucky to have them, and I really am passionate about moving Rutland forward, continuing to bring in the community and economic development, continuing to reach out to folks from different areas to help bring them here and their families here and their businesses to grow Rutland and make Rutland a better place.
Thank you, Lisa. Robert Schlachter.
Thank you. Some areas that I'm interested in, this may sound as surprising to some people, is first of all, businesses and the aspect of economic development. Keeping the good ones that we have here now and bringing new business in with the jobs of the future. At the same time, developing the workforce that we need to do that. And we do a pretty good job of that already with our vocational programs as well as our colleges in the area and the like. But I think we need to just continue our game on that and making it better all the time. The next thing is infrastructure. Our roads are atrocious, and I do not take that as a shot at DPW. There's just so many resources that we have, and I'm very aware of that for many years. But we need to come up with ways to creatively handle that situation, whether it's going after more federal money, leveraging what we have somehow, working with the state. We really need to get our roads fixed, but also our water and sewer. We talked about a 100-year program a while ago. We obviously still have infrastructure in the city that's 90 to 100 plus years old. And we're on borrowed time, so hopefully, again, we can leverage many different aspects to that development, federal grants and the like, and then moving along from there.
Thank you, Bob. Matthew Reveal.
Thank you, Tom. I really don't think there's been a bad answer yet from the first candidates that went, without trying to sound like I'm repeating anything, but the budget's my biggest concern. I think the Board of Aldermen currently did a great job with the 1920 budget that's coming up, not even raising it to 1%. I think we need to continue that. But at the same time, I agree with some of the other candidates. The infrastructure is an issue. And we also need to make sure that our fire department, police department, and DPW still have the tools and resources they need to do their jobs effectively and safely in the city. Without them, we really don't exist as a city. We really need those three backbones to have everything that they need to get their jobs done. So, you know, continuing the course with the budget, if we can keep that percentage down and not put the burden on the taxpayers, as well as trying to get other businesses in here to help keep the tax burden down, I mean, everything goes hand in hand. I really think the budget is my biggest passion to wanting to be on the board.
Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
Yeah, I think we should be more proactive downtown, especially on Center Street, and getting better businesses and more businesses. We have numerous bars on one side of the street, and on the other side of the street we have businesses that are trying. One business has just gone out. The gentleman from one business is proud of Center Street. He's been there a long time. He'd like to see better businesses down there. We don't need bars on one side of the street or on the other side of the street. We need to have people that are interested in starting a business, wanting a business, and the city of Rutland wanting businesses down there instead of bars. We've seen enough bars. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. All right, our next question, and I want to say great answers to everybody. Oh, Tom. Tom Depoy.
Hear from me, then.
I do want to hear from you.
Thanks, Tom. You know, Bob brought up the roads, and one thing I want to point out, a few years ago, the roads used to be part of a bond issue. We used to put about $400,000 into a bond issue, and it passed overwhelmingly every year. So that's been raised from $100,000 a paving budget up to $500,000. I would actually propose we even go higher. The problem with that is I'd like to see cuts in spending somewhere else to make up that difference. Matt brought up that this year it was less than a 1% increase in the city budget. I'm very concerned, though, because a lot of that is on the back of the workers' comp insurance, which was greatly reduced this year. That's not always going to happen. So we have a problem we're going to have to look at there. If our workers' comp experience goes up, then we're going to look at some major increases, which I really hope we don't. So taxes and spending, I mean, it's a big thing that we have to, take care of here in the city. And we have to get the burden off the residential payer. And the way we do that is, as you know, with your years in the Chamber of Commerce, is we have to bring more business into this area that'll take the pressure off the residential payer.
Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
So the next question will go to Melinda. And by the way, folks, with your great answers, I think you might like our questions. You may have to reiterate your answers a little bit because we're touching on a lot of these things tonight. So Melinda, let me start with you. And this will go around the room for all of you, of course. But we have recently celebrated several new businesses in the area. However, there have been a significant number of businesses quietly closing. If elected, do you have a business recruitment idea you would want to champion?
A business recruitment idea specifically? I think Brennan and the RRA Downtown Rutland Partnership, we've done a good job marketing the grants and incentives that are existing. But what I think we could do better at is reaching out directly to businesses that we know are looking for new locations, new homes, that we know are known good employers with livable wage jobs, looking to perhaps move an entire business, relocate, and we can use our marketing skills and the quality of life, as I mentioned already, to help recruit those businesses to move here. Businesses that can really operate anywhere in the country. We really need to sell ourselves to encourage them to consider us.
Thank you, Melinda. Rebecca Mattis.
Well, I agree with everything that Melinda just said, and I also, as someone who works at a downtown business at Phoenix Books, I think the best thing you can do for a business is provide customers. Our population is shrinking. We need people. We need to attract people to the city, and these are the people that are going to grow the businesses that come in. As you said, we have a bunch of new businesses coming in, which is great, but all too many go away, and it is for lack of customers. I see that as the foundational issue. And we are marketing our city in many ways. We have the Real Rutland campaign, and I would just like to see what else we can do in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Matthew? Merritt.
This is a great question. I think that it's very, very important for any community to continue to evolve. And I think that one way that we can get more business here is to continue to use our technology, continue to use social media. I certainly applaud the work of the marketing departments that we already have here. The RADC, and as Melinda was talking about, the RA does a fantastic job. I think the new signage plan that has been discussed at some of the Alderman meetings is vital. We do need more pedestrian traffic in Rutland. I think those signs will direct people in the right direction, for sure. But yeah, I think a lot of it is just expanding on what we already have and using our social media and just continuing to evolve as a community. And I think we'll see more business coming in.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. Lisa Ryan.
Thanks, Tom. I want to echo a little bit of what Alderwoman Mattis said and talking about people and bringing people here. And I think that's so important, and that is really the foundation to lay out to increase the number of businesses that come into the city. We need to be asking the people what they want. We need to be asking the people what their interests and what their needs are. And once we create really that space, it'll allow us to bring in more businesses. I also, really appreciate the efforts of Reddick and the RRA in all of the technology and social media aspects that come along with that for promoting Rutland as a really positive place to live.
Thank you, Lisa. Robert Schlachter.
Okay. again, bringing in new business to the city is obviously very important, and to do that, we're already doing recruitment in many different ways, and I agree with what's been said already. We need to get people to want to come to Rutland, to go downtown, and we're even doing I think some pretty good work on that, but we can always move forward even further. The idea of Rutland, for example, being a recreation destination as part of the whole regional aspect of things. We have Pine Hill Park, which is on social media. People love to come up here to that. And, you know, there's even talk, I guess, of some type of a connection between Killington with a bike trail to Rutland City and to Pine Hill Park. And I think that would be great in bringing folks in, not just to come up here for a couple of weeks, or a couple of days, I should say, or a week, but to come up here permanently, because the quality of life, the schools are good, the community is a nice community to be in, and you know, hopefully people will see that we have many opportunities, but we have to keep getting that word out. I think we're doing it, but we need to continue to redevelop as we go along, reinvent our marketing.
Thank you, Bob. Matthew Reveal.
Thank you again, Tom. Once again, I haven't heard a bad answer yet. As a downtown business owner, I agree with a lot of the candidates. It does take customers to get into the community. And I'm coming up on my 25th anniversary since I graduated from Rutland High School. And I've heard the same thing over and over again. Like, I chose to stay here. And we haven't had a lot of younger people choose to stick around. I mean, they go to college outside of state, which is great, or some stay local, and then they choose to go away. I think we need to do a better job at marketing Rutland as a place to work, live, and play. And Alderwoman Melinda Humphrey has great signs. I love those signs, live, work, and play in Rutland. So I think everybody's kind of touched on it. You know, to get the business, you need the customers. We need to come up with a marketing campaign. There already are great incentives for business owners to draw businesses and grants that reduce the tax burden for them. And you know, I got to take advantage of that as a new business owner last year. So I mean, we already are working on those things. I just think we need to do a better job at marketing the city of Rutland and trying to keep people here. And I think that will go a long way in gaining more business.
Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
I don't have the answers as to how to draw people to businesses into Rutland, but from what I see as a private citizen, I don't really see any development downtown other than bars. I see people leaving. I see people leaving on West Street. I don't see no incentives for them to stay. People are leaving. Why? There's got to be a better way. I don't really have the answer, but some of these people talk about development in Rutland, downtown incentives. Where are the businesses?
Thank you, Dan. Tom Depoy.
Thanks, Tom. You know, it was really encouraging to see a place like Five Guys go in. It's a real up-and-coming you know, business around the nation. The problem with that is it replaced an existing business that was there. So it really hasn't shifted a lot of the tax burden, you know, off of the, you know, the individual, the residential payer. I would like to see the other corner over at Woodstock Avenue developed. We need to get something in there that's going to be an attraction for people that are coming through town. They can stop and see that. And in that same vein, we have a new sign ordinance that we're talking about, and I think we need to tread very cautiously as we proceed with the sign ordinance. There are some aspects of it right now as it's written that I cannot support. Limiting the size of the signs is a good thing, but what is the appropriate size? Also, internally lit signs. You go up and down Main Street in our commercial zones and Woodstock Avenue and West Street, there are signs that are internally lit, and I don't think that restricting those is a good way to promote more business, so we need to tread very cautiously on that. With that said, keep your eyes and ears open as we move forward with this sign ordinance. It's really something we need to be very cautious with.
Thank you, Tom. Christopher Ettori.
Thank you, Tom. The hard part about going last is I had a chance to think of all the different things I could say here. So a couple years ago, I had the opportunity to go to a economic development conference where the speaker talked about moving from the buffalo herding model to a culture of entrepreneurship. And I think we need to really develop that. One of the pieces that this gentleman talked about was building on your current assets. What are the pieces here that we already have and that we can build on? Energy innovation is one, as you know. Our farm to table with the farmers market and all of our local farmers throughout the area is another one. So we really need to build on our current assets. In regards to actual numbers, the Downtown Partnership has to put out a report for 2018, and in the 2018, 13 new businesses opened downtown, 2 expanded, and only 7 left. So there's a net gain of businesses and a net gain of jobs. So I think, there's anecdotal thoughts that people have, but there's some real evidence that downtown businesses are coming in. I just want to mention 2 other things. One, the market study, DRP did a market study a few years back, and that's what helped us drive new businesses. So that's an idea for recruitment. And the current Downtown Partnership is really looking towards moving away from retail and moving towards this idea of how do you experience downtown? What's the adventure? Retail is changing across the country with the internet, and so what draws people to downtown? And it's really going to be the experience of coming into downtown Rutland. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, so the next question will go to Rebecca, and it goes like this. Rutland recently won a Domino's Pizza paving grant. The local franchise owner said, cracks, bumps, and potholes can easily ruin a good takeout. And nobody wants that. If elected, what would you do to address the disrepair of many city streets?
Thank you. I just love that. That's pretty great. Thank you, Domino's. The question is, what will I do to keep the streets in good repair?
Yeah, so we're saying, if elected, what would you do to address the disrepair of many city streets?
Okay. Well, we need to keep in mind, everyone knows that streets cost money and money comes from taxes. We need to grow the tax base. If we had a robust enough tax base, we could pave the streets all we wanted. So that's the foundation, grow the tax base. It's important to keep in mind in terms of potholes that they are caused a great deal by these freeze-thaw cycles that we've been having. So I hope it reflects more upon the climate and less upon Rutland as a city and DPW in particular. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Matthew, Merritt.
Thank you, Tom. First of all, I think this is one of the coolest stories to come out of Rutland in a very, very long time. I think it's awesome whenever a free market company like that can help out a local community. I think it's fantastic. I am a Pizza Hut guy, no offense to Domino's or anything, but certainly. But no, I think this is great, and I think if elected, I believe that we need to really focus on the side streets and the sidewalks here in the city. A lot of people talk about Route 7. Unfortunately, it's another animal. It's a state-funded road, so it's very, very difficult for us to deal with that. But yeah, I think it's very, very important that we deal with our side streets and our neighborhoods and our sidewalks. Those are all in need of repair, and I think that these bonds that are coming up, as I stated earlier on the ballot, are very, very important. I do agree with them, and I think it's great that we are giving that power to the voters as opposed to doing it on the Board of Aldermen. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Lisa Ryan?
Tom, could you repeat that question, please?
Would you like the whole thing? Can I say the whole thing just one more time?
Sure.
Because I love this question.
Yeah.
Recently, Rutland won a Domino's Pizza paving grant. The local franchise owner said cracks, bumps, and potholes can easily ruin a good carry-out pizza. And nobody wants that. If elected, what would you do to address the disrepair of many city streets?
Well, this is a funny and interesting question, like Rebecca said. I really appreciate that Domino's is willing to put forth funds in order to repair some of our potholes in our streets. I do agree with Matt Merritt along the facts that we really need to focus on our side streets right now, and we need to determine a way that we can get that money so that we continue or start to, heal some of these wounds that are in the ground. I travel to work on Granger Street every day, and so I understand the frustration around potholes. I also keep in mind that we live in Vermont, and we have a lot of snow, and we have a lot of plows that are doing the good work. And although maintenance is important, there's only so much that we can do, and it's all about funding, and we need to find where that comes from.
Thank you, Lisa. Robert Schlachter.
I think it's great that Domino's is doing this program, and I also think it shows that Rutland isn't the only place that has these problems. Across the country, infrastructure is becoming a huge issue, and it's something that's going to need to be addressed, I think, both on the local level, the state level, and the national level. Again, looking for funds. I had mentioned in my opening comment about looking for funds to see what we can do to leverage the money we have. As Alderman Depoy said, we have money that we're putting aside every year now, and they're trying to boost that as much as they can. So more and more will get done, and I know Commissioner Wenberg has a program and a plan of how the streets are going to be done and where they're going to be done. But again, I think we need to grow the tax base, as we said before. As new business comes in, maybe there can be some partnerships with some of the new businesses to improve roads in the area that they're going to be affecting. I'm very concerned, though, to see the condition such as down on Spruce Street. I take my wife to lunch every day and go down to Marble Valley Transit to pick her up. And I'm seeing a lot more potholes, as well as some of the manhole covers seem to be starting to subside into the road a little bit too. So I hope it's just a matter of frost and not something more structural.
Thank you, Bob. Matthew Reveal.
I think Domino's got all their free plugs they're getting for the money they sent us. But everyone's kind of touched on it all again. I mean, it is weather caused. I mean, we know the ground freezes, the ground thaws. It does cause those issues. Another issue that it causes is some of our out-of-date equipment that DPW has. I mean, some of our equipment causes that. And I think setting money aside and giving DPW the right amount of money that they need and the tools and the resources they do to make sure that some of these incidents don't come up with the roads. So, I mean, growing the tax revenue to get more money in to lay off the residential person to help offset these costs is what we have to do. It's everything goes hand in hand.
Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
Well, as one person, there's not much I could do but make suggestions. Whether it gets followed through with or not, that's another question. I would propose, and I know people would hate to hear this, but I would propose maybe a 1 or 2% tax or budget program to be put on the ballot for upcoming years to make them help make financial money available for these side streets, infrastructure on the roads. The Department of DPW, Jeff Wenberg, they all do a great job, but they can only do so much without funding. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Dan. Tom Depoy.
Thanks, Tom. One of the problems that has occurred over the last couple of years is a funding problem with the state of Vermont in repairing North and South Main Street. And unfortunately, the state wasn't going to do that, so we as a city had to take over on those are state-funded roads, don't forget, and divert $50,000 from a couple of other projects to go into South Main Street to repair that. And also, North Main Street had to be repaired as well, as it was falling apart. So we've had to smooth those roads over. Some of the side streets that you might notice that are really bad right now are Lincoln Avenue north of North Street, and that area is waiting repair because the culvert is going to have to be completely replaced that goes underneath the road for Tennybrook. That will be repaired and resurfaced when that culvert is finished. East Street is a terrible road right now, as well as Madison. Madison always seems to be a problem. It's because there's concrete slabs underneath, which would cost a fortune to take out. So we have to put in new pavement on those streets every time and grind down to the concrete. Once that concrete, you get down to it, it's just it's a nightmare when the frost gets going, as people were talking about.
Thank you, Tom. Christopher Ettori.
Thank you, Tom. I had the opportunity to talk with the city engineer probably about a year ago about this issue because I was curious about why we got here. And he said it had a lot to do with some historical lack of funding, partly because of the cap on the tax rate that we used to have, and just different priorities over the years. I think it's a multifold approach. Alderman Depoy had mentioned, maybe we need to go out for additional bonding. The city taxpayers seem to support infrastructure needs like that. I think we absolutely have to grow the tax base to help support it. And I think we also have to look for efficiencies. We have to change the way we operate. This is a point I made during our budget conversations, that we really need to change the way we do business. We cannot continue to operate the same way and expect different results and cheaper results or less expensive results. So I think we have to look for the opportunities for efficiencies, both in how we operate city government, and then also, as Alderman Depoy just mentioned, take advantage of when projects are coming to put the money into another project so that that project can be done when the funding comes through. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Melinda Humphrey.
Thank you, Tom. Well, I'm glad we're all on the same page on this one. We definitely need we could have some room for improvement on our sidewalks and the state of our roads. We all think it's kind of silly, the grant that we received. However, Commissioner Wenberg did mention a number like the equivalent of the grant is equal to about 1/3 of our hot patch budget. So this does make a significant impact on the potholes we're able to repair this spring. As others have mentioned, we do need to get creative to find money to continue to make progress on our already scheduled repairs. We got a little bit off track this year with repairs to North and South Main Street, as Alderman Depoy said, because we made some repairs to street roads, and that's money that we do not anticipate right now that we'll get back from the state. One thing that I have learned going through the budget process 6 times now is that individual financial decisions do make a difference in the long run. And I definitely think this is a place where those individual decisions can make a difference one way or the other on what we have left for our paving budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. Just before we go to the next question, which we'll start with Matthew Merritt, I want to just take a second to thank the folks that worked on this program today. Tom Leopold, of course, our director here, Chris McCormick, Nancy Donahue, Bryn Doan, Chelsea Tice, Amber Dumas, Daniel Appelt, Missy Delahanty, and B. Farnham Photography. Thank you very much. PEG TV and Channel 21 brought you this tonight, and also PegTV.com and live on Facebook. It's a great team here at PEG TV, Rutland Region Community Television at its best. We're very fortunate to have them and this great team that works here that brings you productions like this tonight so that you can make a better, more informed decision on March 5th, where we'll be bringing you live election night coverage right here from the studio. But I also wanted to remind folks that the polls are open, if you will, at City Hall if you want to vote early. Not often, just early. You can begin your voting now after you watch tonight's forum, of course, and make a good educated decision about which candidates are best for these offices. We're interviewing 9 folks tonight. There are 9 candidates for 6 seats on the Rutland City Board of Aldermen and 2 candidates for a 1-year term. We've got 9 of those folks out of 11 here in the studio tonight presenting themselves to you. So we thank you for tuning in, and we have a few more great questions to ask to help you make your decisions. But we want to encourage you to get out and vote subsequently to this and make sure that you make your selection for the former leader or future leaders of the City of Rutland on the Rutland City Board of Aldermen. I also want to give a quick shout out to some folks in the Northeast Kingdom watching tonight. We have John, Fern, and Tanny all watching from the Northeast Kingdom, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my mom, Martha Donahue, watching from 50 Edgerton Street. Hi, Mom. All right, now the next question we have for Matthew Merritt, and we've touched on it a little bit tonight, actually, and Tom Depoy's previous answer. The Board of Aldermen is considering an ordinance to prohibit future development from having internally illuminated and message signs. Do you support this legislation even if it meant future business, like a Five Guys, said, forget it?
I'm super excited that I get to start with this one. This is a very passionate issue, I think, right now for me. I think that these regulations that are being proposed right now on these signs, whether they be in downtown or on Woodstock Avenue, wherever they may be, I think that they are dangerous, and I think that they are not needed. I know that most people that I've spoke to that live in the downtown area already agree that most of these signs are already really small anyways, and you know, the internal illumination is just another regulation that I don't think is necessary. I think that what it does is it sort of hurts competition in a sense. I think competition in that idea is great. So yeah. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Lisa Ryan.
Thanks, Tom. I think when it comes to the internally lit signs that I have to agree for the most part with Mr. Merritt in that I think it does cause a distraction and it poses a distraction. You know, we have to keep in mind what size these signs look like, how much they're going to be illuminated, but I worry about our, you know, law enforcement and our different services that have the lights on their vehicles and trying to get from point A to B and having that be a distraction for not only them but other folks traveling on the road. So I think we need to be smart about this decision and make a really collaborative decision on what's best for the city.
Thank you, Lisa. Robert Schlachter.
Hey, I think a lot of the issue here is, again, people want to have aesthetics, obviously, but businesses today have illuminated signs. Most places they are, especially any national chain or larger business that comes into the community. I think in many cases they can be done tastefully, and obviously with LEDs and new lighting technology today, they can do a lot of different things with signs. But I do believe that illuminated signs should be permitted. Perhaps some restrictions on the overall size or the like would be great. I mean, we want to preserve what we have. If anybody's been to Las Vegas, they realize what the other end of the spectrum could be. And I think, you know, it makes sense to allow illuminated signs for especially along our main arteries.
Thank you, Bob. Matthew Reveal.
Thank you, Tom. I actually agree with Alderman Depoy on this. I think we need to be very careful of how we look at the wording and how this new rule wants to be worded. I mean, people have signs because people want to know where the businesses are. That's the purpose of a sign. So I think we really need to take a look at some sizes, and I'm not against illuminated signs. I mean, I was in the beer business. I used to neon signs, so you know, we know those aren't good for you. But at the same time, you want to, when it gets dark, you want to be able to see where a sign is. So having an illuminated sign, tasteful yet practical. I mean, I really do think we need to pay attention to how it's worded, and I agree with Alderman Depoy on it.
Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
Can I get a clarification on the rule? Is it an existing rule or a potential rule?
Proposed before the Board of Aldermen currently in committee.
I'd be against it.
Thank you, Dan.
Bottom line.
All right. Tom Depoy.
I'm with Dan White on this. I'm against it as it's worded currently. Just some revisions need to be made possibly to the sign ordinance. I'm open to listening to what some of the proposals are. There is a meeting on Monday of this coming week down at City Hall, 5:30, for those of you that can make it down there, to talk about the sign ordinance that is in committee. You know, as it's written, it's a business killer, Tom. It's a business killer. It does not need to be put in the way it's written. I will oppose it as it's written. I hope the committee comes up with some more common sense, some sensible solutions to it. But, you know, to go after business the way I believe that this ordinance, proposed ordinance, is going after business with the internally lit signs, it's just going to be a business killer. So I'm opposed to it as it's currently written.
Okay. Thank you, Tom. Christopher Ettori.
Thank you, Tom. I think this is a tough one for all of us on the board. I think we need to be clear that something needs to happen. If you have looked at the ordinances or are familiar with the ordinances, there are not enforcement powers right now, and you could build the biggest sign you wanted, and it could block other businesses, and there would be nothing we could do about that, is my understanding from the presentation that we've already had on this. I do agree that we need to be careful. We need to make sure that we don't show businesses that we don't want them here. We need to encourage businesses. That being said, I think we need to look at what is our vision for the community. One of the slides that was presented demonstrated that if the sign was a little bit shorter, you could see the mountain range around us. And as we're trying to recruit people to live here versus somewhere else where there's businesses all over the place and cars all over the place and traffic and you can't get anywhere, we have something different here to offer. Whether or not this ordinance is the right ordinance or whether or not there should be changes, I really haven't done enough digging to know the right path on that. We need to do something. Is it what we have? I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to a discussion where everybody can share their opinions, particularly business owners, because I think it matters. And I think it's important that we understand really what this ordinance says and what do we want for our community moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Melinda Humphrey.
Thank you. This question is a tricky one. The proposed sign ordinance, we're meeting to talk about it for the second or third time now at the Board of Aldermen level on Monday. The Rutland City Planning Commission has been working on this sign ordinance for about 3 years now and have involved businesses and chamber members and public every step of the way. I think as Alderman Ettori mentioned, we really need to get together and make this a collaborative process, as the Planning Commission has been encouraging all along, and land on an endgame vision that we really are looking to build upon, and that will help us as we go through the ordinance to finish up the process. I mean, everybody knows we're not Woodstock, we're not Manchester. I don't think this sign ordinance is intended to make us look like that at all, but we all need to be on the same page as to where we want to land with this ordinance. Our restrictions comparatively, the proposed restrictions comparatively, are nothing compared to other communities around us. I disagree with Alderman Depoy. I do not think this is a business killer. There are grandfathering clauses in place with very specific triggers for any changes required to existing signs. Thank you.
Thank you, Melinda. Rebecca Mattis.
Thank you. I do just want to quickly note that Monday's meeting on the sign ordinance is mainly for the Board of Aldermen to bring their questions and concerns. And while we need to hear from the public meeting is going to take place later. So the public is welcome to attend, but it's not going to be a time for public comment because I believe we're only going to have time to hear from the Board of Aldermen. I know this because I am currently the chair of the Charter and Ordinance Committee, and I have mapped out with the board president, Sharon Davis, a plan for the board and the city to give full review to this ordinance. I believe that the vision of the ordinance is in the right place. As I have said, business is nothing without customers, and we need to attract people. We need to have the city be navigable. You need to see all the signs, and there are places where there's a lot of clutter. I think that needs to be fixed. But as to illuminated signs and all the other details, that is all up for debate. And as I said, we have a plan and plenty of time to talk about all of these issues. And if I continue to be the chair of Charter and Ordinance, I'm going to be very careful that all opinions are heard and addressed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. When I was on the Board of Aldermen, I was chair of the Charter and Ordinance Committee. It was a lot of work. These folks have been so wonderful tonight and answering their questions succinctly that we do have time for one more question. So we'll start with Lisa Ryan, and I'm going to consider this one beginning and wrapping up with a softball. How's that? So, Lisa, the Board of Aldermen have 7 standing committees, and their members are appointed by the Aldermanic President. Which committee are you most interested in serving on if reelected?
Thanks, Tom. If reelected, I really would like to remain on the Public Safety Committee. I work very closely with the Rutland City Police Department, and I also am very supportive of all the law enforcement agencies. I'm very happy with where the fire department is going, and I've had a real opportunity to learn a lot about each of the agencies that provide the safety and security for Rutland City. I don't think that our local law enforcement, and I'm speaking of fire and police, always get recognized for all of the hard work and the risk that they put out every day. And I want to help make things easier for them and let them know they're appreciated. And I can do that by remaining as a representative and board member for the Public Safety Committee.
Wow, you did that with 2 seconds left. That was good, Lisa. Robert Schlachter.
I'm going to say intermunicipal because I believe that the future is regional and that we need to be working with our neighbors on the vision for not just the city of Rutland, but for the entire Rutland area. And I think because of my work in the fire mutual aid system, it might be beneficial, you know, that we've already worked with a lot of communities around Rutland County to do things. And I'd like to apply that to that position.
Thank you, Bob. Matthew Reveal.
Thank you, Tom. I actually would be happy with any one of the committees that the board president would be putting me on. As a first-time member up here, and if I get elected, don't forget to vote March 5th. But I don't think there's an area where we don't need help or we don't need fresh new ideas. I think everything kind of all blends together, all 8 committees, and I think they all have the same agenda, and it makes the city work in a better way. So I just, whatever one the president puts me on, I'll be happy with and give it 100%.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Dan White.
I'm not exactly sure what the different programs are to work on, but I would want to work on development of the city, intermunicipal as well. I agree with Mr. Schlachter that we should have more communication in Rutland Town, West Rutland, different communities around Rutland to do what's for the betterment of Rutland County as a whole. I do have a question, but I don't know if we're allowed to have questions or not.
Yep, we're not, but thank you for your answer, Dan.
Okay. For a rebuttal, actually.
Tom Depoy.
Thanks, Tom. Currently, I'm the chair of Public Safety and Recreation. I'd love to stay as the chair of those 2 committees. I do enjoy those, and I've gotten over to the Police Commission to speak with them and have some very good relationships with the Police Department and developing those with the Fire Department. So, and there's some very important things coming up with the 911 issue that I mentioned earlier that need to be addressed. I'm also a past chair of the Public Works Committee. We have the Fathom water meter going on right now, where we're going to be converting over to the Fathom water meters. That's going to be kind of a challenge, and you know, all of the people that are here and those elected are going to have a very big say in what goes on as we convert to the new water meters, and this can be intrusive into people's homes. So we need to make sure that this goes well and it does save the taxpayers money as we go forward. I like those committees. I've been on the general committee. I've been the chair of special liquor. I think Chris is the chair of special liquor now. And, you know, there's some very important issues that come up there with some of the bars as Dan White has mentioned here tonight. So any of the committees, they're all important. You know, I think everyone here would serve on those committees wherever they're put by the president of the board. You know, with a lot of energy and enthusiasm. So,
thank you, Tom. I was actually chair of special liquor as well. At one point, I actually was charged with shutting down the strip clubs on State Street.
Yeah.
Made me very popular with some and very unpopular with others.
Well, I was the chair of special liquor during the whole circumstances surrounding the local here in town and also the Stoplight Lounge. So. Unfortunate circumstances there and very difficult issues to deal with, but I think the board handled those very well.
The worst part was when they had the Jello for the Jello wrestling, and I prohibited that.
Yeah.
And they called me up and said, well, "What are we supposed to do with all this Jello?" Christopher Ettori.
Thanks, Tom. I'm not sure how I follow that. I think to Alderman Depoy's point, you know, we serve wherever we're asked to serve. We serve the city, and we'll do what we need to do. That being said, I live my life in the community economic development sphere. I was on that committee, and I chaired that committee until last year when the president decided to move me off of it. Whether it's my job at the Community College of Vermont helping develop the workforce, I was on the board for the Downtown Partnership for 3 years. I've been attending RRA meetings since 2012. I was a co-chair of the One to Feet Kids Museum when we created that, along with Myra Peffer. I attend Project Vision. I've been attending this group work that we call ourselves the Trauma Avengers. We're really trying to work to help our community become a trauma-responsive community, given the issues that we have in the community. So I really live my life in the community economic development sphere, and so I would really appreciate being on that committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Melinda Humphrey.
Thank you. This is a fun question because committees is really where a lot of the action and work happens behind the scenes before we get to the full board meetings. It's actually part of my term in the last 6 years that I look forward to every year. I think presidents in the past have really made some tough decisions in some cases, but try to select folks to the committees based on their individual strengths and interests. I've been chair of the Finance Committee, the Charter and Ordinance Committee, the General Committee, the Rec Committee, and those are all in the past. But currently I'm chair of the Community and Economic Development Committee. As Chris made mention in his regard, I live my life outside of work in the rec sphere, I think, mostly, and so that is always kind of a pet of mine, and I'm currently vice chair of that with Tom. I think we might always have a friendly competition to who can have that one, but recently my interests have been piqued in the public safety, and that is a realm that I haven't had a lot of experience on the committee, so I would like to participate in that more.
Thank you, Melinda. Thanks. Rebecca Mattis.
Thank you. I want to say first that I have really enjoyed being on the, now I'm blanking out, the Public Works Committee, because it is just fascinating. And I want to continue to stay on that committee. But of course, the Charter and Ordinance Committee is the most important to me. I take the job very seriously. I am devoted to due process, and I am very careful when it comes to inspecting the language of an ordinance. And the thing about policy is you really need to be careful of unintended consequences. So, for example, with the sign ordinance, if there is anything in that ordinance that is a business killer, it needs to be removed. Reasonable people, however, can disagree, and I am anticipating not a little bit of disagreement. And if, reassigned to that committee, I am going to do everything I can to make sure that that discussion happens in an orderly and prudent, deliberate, and judicious fashion.
Thank you, Rebecca. Excellent. And last but not least, Matthew Merritt.
Thank you, Tom. As I stated in the beginning, I am a first-time candidate. So if I was elected, I certainly would not be picky. I would choose, I would take any department that President Davis gave to me. I am very passionate about public safety. I do believe that's someplace where I can help, and I think that our city has made some great strides. We got some great crime numbers back recently, and the crime is going down, and I credit Project Vision and some other outside agencies for that. I also do believe that I could help in economic development. As stated, I am a sales rep for a screen printing company, a local company, and I have helped our business grow throughout the community and throughout the state of Vermont. So I think I'd be happy to serve on any committee that I was offered.
Thank you, Matt, very much. So that rounds out our questions for tonight. You've got some great candidates and some great answers. We'll be also doing a mayoral debate coming up, and watch for that, as well as, of course, live election night coverage on March 5th, starting at 7 p.m. right here on PEG TV, Channel 21, pegtv.com, and live on Facebook. So please remember to get out and vote. Please remember to tune in to see which one of these amazing candidates win on the 5th of March and are serving you as your next city leaders. And last but not least, thank you for PEG TV for putting this amazing broadcast on. There's a great team here and a wonderful asset for this region. We're so fortunate to have it. Last but not least, we have a great audience tonight, actually here, a viewing audience, and just ask them if they wouldn't mind giving this group a great round of applause as we head out. There you go. So with that, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I'm Tom Donahue, your host for PEG TV. See you soon.